Welcome back to another episode of Rethink Real Estate. Today, I've got a great announcement. This is our very first Tech Tony session. Tony Self is one of the business owners for us for the Harcourts, Hunter Mason Realty Group in Redondo Beach, and they also have the Las Vegas office as well. Courtney Self is his partner in all of this, and they've been great partners to the Harcourts family for quite some time now, one of our foundational members. And we really appreciate having a definite resource like Tony in the company. So we wanted to bring him into the Rethink Real Estate family so that then agents external to us can start to experience the depth of knowledge that Tony has when it comes to real estate technology. It's very rare that you can find somebody that is both in real estate and has the technology background that Tony has and is so enthused by it all that he's staying up to speed. Our goal with our Tech Tony sessions moving forward as he joins the Rethink Real Estate family from a consistent basis is to provide you, agents, and the community with tools and resources that you can look at, plug in, use, so that you don't have to mindlessly filter through all of the stuff that you're being bombarded with every day when it comes to CRMs, AI, everything, lead generation, everything along those lines. Tony's a great resource. Looking forward to continuing to have him on, and hope you enjoy this first episode where we dive into a little bit of the AI stuff, just so that we can start to get a broader understanding of what's going on. Thanks again. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of Rethink Real Estate, folks. Today, I'm happy to invite into the Rethink Real Estate family Mr. Tony Self, or as I affectionately know Tony as Tech Tony. Okay. Tony, how did that nickname stick?
Well, actually, so I'm not sure if you can call me Tech Tony. So someone else had that. It's a person I knew in real estate. So I was a president for the Proud Street Association of Realtors. I did a lot of technology part. And there was an agent in the audience that knows me. Her name is Gloria. And she started affectionately calling me Tech Tony. And I go, you know what? That sounds pretty good. And then I looked online and said, okay, I need to get techtony.com. And it was for sale for $10,000. So being the cheap person that I am, you can ask my wife and also my sons, I went with techtony.co.co.
Okay.
So I have that instead, but I just love Tech Tony. It just, you know what? It's kind of fun. And even though professionally, when I was in real estate technology, I went by Anthony. Yep. I like the Tony, so that's where I'm at right now.
Well, mate, I think that the first thing that I want to do is give people a little bit of context. Obviously, you, myself, Courtney, we've had a relationship going off a number of years now with our real estate businesses. But the one thing that I want to sort of give people a little bit of a background on is that, Tony, you own 2 locations within the Harcourts family. Courtney and yourself are top performing realtors. But the thing that I've found from a perspective that is really important to us with what you've sort of started to learn within the AI side of stuff and all the technology that's coming down the pike. And also technology is just such a broad landscape in the real estate community. It's like, what trend is happening now? Do I need to switch this over? Do I need to do this now? So that's what we're going to be talking about. But the distinct thing that I love about your perspective on it is that you're a real estate agent first and a business owner first. And technology is your enthusiasm behind the scenes in order to make your business more efficient. So you're going to be featuring in the Rethink Real Estate podcast side of things a number of times throughout the year. And again, we're going to bring that schedule up to date shortly. But I'm very excited for agents to. Because this is the stuff I would listen to. If I'm an agent out there in the field, I would listen to how to bring my business more efficient through the tools that are coming down the pike at the moment. So first and foremost, just a little bit of background before we go into some of the tools and stuff that people might have available to them leading into business planning, because this is airing in towards the middle of December, is that give us a little bit of background from your perspective of how did you get into the technology side? How did real estate merge into that? Obviously, Courtney's been in it. Just give us a little bit of background from that perspective.
Well, I got to start when I was in 3rd grade. So that's a long time ago. For some reason, I had a math teacher that taught me programming on a Timex Sinclair, which I'm still looking for. It's this little push button computer. This is before the trash 80s, TRS 80s. And for some reason, I just have a knack with technology, and it started back in 3rd grade with that math teacher, which I cannot remember his name. And then as I moved forward, I went to college, got a business degree. I've always been a salesperson. Worked at Sears Roebuck, sold lawn and garden, had the vest, did very quite well. But that my whole thing was real estate, sales, and then even though I got the business degrees, I always been very technical. So moving fast forward, when my Courtney and I met, Courtney, my partner, who you mentioned, she is what I call a rainmaker. She is an agent that has always been successful in the business. She seems very, outgoing. She is outgoing. She's outgoing. Doesn't like see that much, but she is like a master at databases, a CRM. And she's someone that her first year out, she did 50 sales as a newbie in Arizona. She was the top agent for ERA Realty. And I met her and I was entitled because I failed as a real estate agent because thought I was smarter than everybody else, which you're not. And that's where I became very humbled by the whole process that, when it comes down to selling real estate, it's all about connecting with people. Even though I love technology, it's still not even close where it needs to be because everyone's like, oh, it's going to replace you. It's going to replace, I worked in big tech, foreclosures. I was an REO agent. Yes, for certain segments. When it comes to what we do day in, day out, working with clients, I get calls all the time. It's not going to happen right away. If it does, then we're all doomed as a species, right? But so moving fast forward, I got hired by the California Association of Realtors. And then they hired me specifically because I was a salesperson and I was technical. And I was the person that went up and down the state with my colleague, Jeff Johns. And we said, there's this thing called the internet. And if you don't get on board, you're going to be replaced as agent. Now, this is before we actually had listings online. When you wanted to get real estate listings back in 95 and earlier, you would actually have to go to the real estate office and they would have this big MLS phone book. It's like active by maybe a week if you're lucky. You were fined if you let that book out of your office. So think about it. All these agents, the way they sold was you had to come to them. They had all this information, right? And then here's this young guy at the time. I'm old now, but young at the time in 95, telling me, like, hey, there's a thing called the internet. I can't tell me people said, what's the internet? It's never going to happen. This is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. At the time, it was CompuServe AOL. And then, oh, by the way, we're concerned as an institution, because the National Association of Realtors of California, that we might be actually, as real estate agents, you may be replaced if we don't get on board with this thing called the internet. And we were concerned with a small site called Zillow at the time. And so Zillow has some pretty, significant people behind it. And people go, what is Zillow? What's a Zillow kind of thing? And then also on top of that, Microsoft is always amazing. They had a small site called Home Advisor. And Microsoft is putting a ton of money, smart people, a lot of money. So that's when we had the listing wars, where we actually went in, and what we did is we got an exclusive for some states to be able to kiss. So anyways, that's where I came from that. So I saw the internet and how it just impacted and changed business. But did it really change business? Because I know some agents, they're still selling after that. It's just they had to kind of adapt and change. The technology was significant, but if you don't change in our business, you have a chance of being left behind. So, I know agents that do $1 million, $2 million GCI, don't even have a CRM. It boggles my mind, but they do. So that's the background.
I had somebody who you would know and will remain nameless, who does significant business, say, hey, what CRM do you use? Pointed at his phone. He literally goes like this. Yeah, this. I'm like, oh, my dearest of gods. Wow. Okay. But mate, so in these sessions that you and I are going to do, because the reality is you guys are out there running a real estate business, and Courtney's out there being a top performing agent. You're doing all the transactions as well with her. Is that, I guess that the part of this that I think that what I want to do on all of these sessions as we go through and we verbally process and we discover it ourselves is that there's just a lot of hype around AI in general. So that's where I'd just like to start, if that's okay, Tony, is that because we can talk about CRM, we can go through and do different topics later, and you're going to be a regular guest on this, so this is really great. But the reality is, Tony, is that let's first of all deal with one question that is top of mind for me: is AI, does it have the potential to replace agents? Is it the internet again?
Yes and no. So what I can tell you about AI right now, and moving fast forward, like I said, I'm an enthusiast in technology, and for some reason, I've had the opportunity to be an international speaker on artificial intelligence to small businesses, and I've also done for agent. I've written a book on it. Is that it has a lot of possibility. The way I like to approach it is this: everyone, including agents, other businesses, large, small, they're all like just freaked out that AI is going to replace what they do. And to some circumstance, that's why it seems very familiar to me from the internet, is that no one really knew. You think about it, all those .coms that failed. At the time, we had living.com when I worked at CAR, and we sold that for a big sum of money. And a month later, that company was out of business.
Yeah, right.
So you just have to take, the thing what I advise is that AI is not going to replace you, but those who use AI will. And you have to understand it. I wouldn't say have, you need to understand it. It's good to understand it. It will help you get there. I mean, a lot of things that like make sense to me and that I've been trying to do takes a very high degree of technical expertise right now. There are some simple applications, which we'll talk about, that I show. But eventually, just like the internet, has the internet replaced real estate agents? No. It has impacted what we do and how we sell and how we get clients. And that's where any business has to take a look at this technology and say, okay, how can I make it to make myself that better? It's going to 10x your production, 10x you. My wife and I, our business is increasing and has increased, even with a lot of challenges that we've seen in our landscape, which has been very significant for real estate. Not to mention, just the AI thing, but just from the recent court case, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Tony, let's talk about a couple of tools and resources then, because, at the end of the day, I do want to make sure that each one of these sessions, people come away with some nuggets. And I know that there's probably different things you can use for different sections of your business. But if you were going to list a couple of tools from an AI perspective that while people are in the business planning stages of their business within December and January, they should probably check out and they should look at integrating into their business or just see if it's something that intrigues them, what would you say are the top ones on your list?
So there's the sexy and there's the boring. The boring is where you make the money. The sexy where you don't make the money. So what do you want?
Give me sexy first. Okay, we're trying to keep people awake on the podcast here. Come on.
So sexy, you basically want to have anything that's lead gen focused. So using the tools, they're very simple tools. What I recommend everybody, at least there's multiple AI models out there. The big one is OpenAI, ChatGPT, where that's what I use, and that's why I believe is going to be the winner in this. However, you also have Google Gemini, that type of thing, and they have different types of items. And then you have Claude, Anthropic.
Can we just talk about those three? So you've got Claude, you've got Google, you've got what's Google's name again? Sorry,
Gemini,
and then you've also got ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the one that obviously I'm familiar with. Okay.
Yes.
Out of the three of them, what is more user friendly? What would you suggest somebody should check out just to get an understanding of what is everyone talking about?
So if you're in a Google space, obviously Google is there. If you have a heavy video focus, because I know a lot of real estate agents do TikTok videos, that type of thing. Google actually has it's an amazing video kind of analyzing tool. I can take videos, I can pull it in Google Studio, and I can have that analyzed and then recreate that in faceless other AI apps. So that respect, it's pretty good. Right. Now, OpenAI is interesting. It doesn't have that video tool, but it has the audio tool. So what we've been using and suggesting is especially the audio is just mind-numbing. It's amazing how amazing it is. If you remember, there's a movie with Joaquin Phoenix in it called Her, with, he fell in love with Scarlett Johansson, which, interesting. That is now with ChatGPT. I can take my phone or on my laptop here, and I can have an engagement. I engage it all the time. Right. I'll walk around. This is one of my favorite. This is also a purchase for the geek in your family. These are the Ray-Ban Metas, right? So this is a phone, speakers. I got AI built into it. I'm walking around, near the beach with my dog, and I'll have a conversation with it. So this is an amazing tool. It's only $300. It was cheaper as well. But it's just those kind of tools, and what they do is just different. So for agent wise, do what you need. You can actually install ChatGPT for free to have access to these intelligent bots, which is really the next iteration of where AI will be. What they call intelligent agents or intelligent bots. If you have the subscription version of ChatGPT, you can create your own bots. I created my own bot that writes in my style. So when I do emails, text messages, I call it the Tony bot, and I just drag and drop, and it writes just in my style. Use the same words, everything else.
That'd be something that I would be really intrigued about diving into on another episode, Tony, is that how do you train a bot? We can do some of the detail stuff of that. But okay, so they're the three major portals from an AI perspective. What are the other tools from a lead generation sexy side of things?
Yeah, so from a sexy side, when you have lead gen, you have to have a place where it lives. So when you get those leads in, you have to make sure you respond to them. So there's text bots, there's intelligent bots where you can have an automatic reply. You have it connected, say, to your Gmail account. You can use there's an application interface in between called Zapier or Make. I think Zapier is easier for most people. That's getting kind of on the it's not an
Technical.
easy setup,
Yep.
but it's kind of, you don't need to be a programmer. You just have to be good with a computer. Right. And what's nice about, they have formulas and templates and both on Make and Zapier, and that will allow you to take these leads in and automatically respond back. And actually, you can plug in my ChatGPT and have an automated response to things quickly. The whole thing about lead gen is you have to respond quickly, as quick as
Absolutely.
possible. And they're not going to be an instant sale right there and then. Yeah. It's a matter of putting them into a system. That's usually the best way to kind of get that going. And they're starting to see one thing that I just want to share. A lot of the applications that you'll use, I like HubSpot, but for agents, you have Lofty, you have Follow Up Boss, which are expensive, and others that we have, and also your brokerage might have it. These tools are starting to integrate like AI mechanics to it, because everyone knows in order to stay in the game, if you're not going to integrate it, they're going to look elsewhere. What's nice about like Make and Zapier is that you're able to keep in your existing sphere. You can have a very basic email and have some like really super sexy, just off the wall kind of cool things with ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, that kind of thing. So those are the kind of the ones that I'm seeing from a sexy standpoint.
Right.
Now, from a boring standpoint, it's all about CRMs. All right. Okay. And there's really two ways to sell, right? It's either repeat referral, which is the majority of agents typically do, or you smile and dial. And you got to have a certain kind of background for it. I know you'll hear all the time, you got the agents who are able to make those calls 5 hours a day and they just love it. But it takes you have to be so honest with yourself. This is one of the things that we've learned as brokers, working with our agents and knowing what we do, is that you got to look in the mirror. If you're not going to smile and dial or do just that kind of thing, you have to be careful of it too, because you have to make sure you have about time, So most of the time it's going to be repeat and referral, which is going to draw back to your CRM. And when I mentioned my wife, my love of my life, she is like the party person, but she is actually better at database management than me. She is just amazing at it. And you don't think of it, but that's why she's been successful in her business. And most of the top agents tend to have a nice, solid CRM, which means you have basics. And then another boring thing, especially at this time of the year, getting your goals out. Making sure you have a business plan, which ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini will do that all for you. You can have it, say, okay, I'm a real estate agent. Here's my budget. Create me a budget. Create me like a plan of attack. My daily, how do I seize a day? Those type of things. And you can interact with it, which is really nice.
So it's really getting in there, Tony, and actually trying to have it, thinking as a person like that is a coach or an advisor with so much knowledge that then you've just got to go back and ask question after question after question after question after question in order to get the most out of it. It's not going to be, hey, write me a budget and just being able to say that and then you expect it to spit something out. You get what you give it and you get the interaction that you're going through with it.
And that's true. So I'm going to focus on OpenAI, ChatGPT, because I believe that's going to be the winner. It's the easiest to understand, and there's a lot of you can have all the apps on it. So ChatGPT, when it first starts off the gate, it's amazing. The model has so much information. But what I do and what I teach others is that I help ChatGPT understand and customize it to me. Mm-hmm. So I give it information about who I am, what I like. How do I see information? And then I also use a technique it's called memory. And then I educate ChatGPT on me. It's like, okay, when I use this word, or, oh, by the way, I'm a real estate broker that does this, or I'm a property manager that does this. So what I receive from my responses through ChatGPT is completely different than most others, because most people just tend to just use it and they don't customize it or add memory to it. And that's where my ChatGPT is a valued personal assistant. In fact, I had my young son, we saw him over Thanksgiving, and I had him they said, oh yeah, talk to ChatGPT, because he had to do a budget. His sergeant, my son's in the Army, said, you need a budget. And I always talked about budget, but I had to take a sergeant to tell him you got to do a budget. So we did a budget. I pulled in all of I said, okay, let's download all your bank statements. Pulled in all bank statements, one PDF file, dropped it into ChatGPT, said, create a budget, and we gave it some information. And I had to say, okay, it's not for me, it's for my son. So I gave it the context, because my ChatGPT it's focused on me. It knows what I am, and it will give a different response than it would for him. Yeah, so you have to make sure most people don't do that for some reason. They don't know you can customize ChatGPT. And I do it, and it's amazing.
And I think that one of the things that, Tony, you gave us the idea on this in the first degree with auction is that we're in the middle of still trying to train a bot in order to actually be able to respond to auction questions appropriately. Now, again, it takes a great deal of time, trial and error. You've got to really want to do it. But the reality is that if you were to take the man hour of employing so let's say that I put 2 people on that would work 24 hours a day, they did shift work, and then I trained them on the auction process so that they could respond regardless of the time zone of the auction process or the question that got or the time that the email come in or whatever it may be. Imagine the man hours. Imagine the variability of those people being available. Imagine one of them leaving and having to retrain somebody again. If everybody thought about the man hours that would take, it's worth every bit of our time to do that on a bot from an AI perspective to be able to answer those type of questions in a specialty skill.
And what you're talking about is the intelligent agent or the chatbot. So Facebook had these chatbots from times before, right? And where it's changing, and where we're going to see it, these intelligent agents right now are coupled, we're going to say in ChatGPT. So you can make a bot. I can make a bot. A bunch of people has made bots. And I can make that bot, say, in the auction method. You take it and you give it all these knowledge documents. So then when you talk to that particular bot, it is an absolute expert in all its material. Where the intelligent agents are going to go in about a year or two is they're going to be decoupled from the actual requirement of having subscription for ChatGPT, and they're going to start to be in your phone as a web page or a bot or an app, and then it's going to remember the conversations that you had. This is where I see for real estate it'd be very successful and it's very helpful. Where my clients, because we have this information that it knows, and it starts to become intelligent. It goes, oh, Ben, I see you were looking at a house last week, and we have some few others, and it starts to engage and it starts to become your voice. We've actually, because we do videos, I call them faceless videos, which doesn't have our face. We have our bot AI person who talks and says, "Oh, hey, this is Clay from Courtney and Tony Self, Harcourts on a Mason Realty team, here to bring you some information." Yep. So you have to think them as another component, somebody that's on your team. And you want to personalize it. That's the whole thing. And one thing too, another tip that I usually give, and we have an agent that answers the phone. I want to make sure that they know you're talking to a bot, because again, depending upon your area, in my area, we tend to have a bit of older,
demographic.
Buyers.
Yep.
They don't like to talk to computers. No. So I make sure that if they ever engage with anything that's bot-like, we follow up. We make sure the experience is 100%. And I've only had a handful of people that don't like it, and I engage them, but they like the fact that I called them.
Yeah, of course. Of course. One of the things that I think that as we sort of round out this episode, I'm really glad that we're talking about the more general side of the AI stuff. But from a practicality, Tony, I think one of the things that I sort of want to get your opinion on is that one of the things that we've experimented with AI on is market data. Right. So, for example, you take all of the data for example, Calista and I live in Eastside Costa Mesa. Okay. We take all of that data from Eastside Costa Mesa and you take the last 5 years of trend activity and you can build all of this data up. Now, again, it takes a little while to gather it up, but you can actually feed it into ChatGPT and ask it for specific trends. Can you see what are the trends of most people selling? What is the seasonality of it? And it can really dial down into the data. And the reason I bring that up is that, is that we speak about quite often. We're quite open with our Harcourts auctions white label concept. Chris jumps on here and we talk about the emails and the prospecting that we do external to the Harcourts network and how we're building that portion of the business, how we identify agents that have had properties on the market for a period of time, and we reach out to them through email, text message, and all the other avenues. And we probably have one of the more extensive databases from a manual perspective right now for different markets in the country for around what agents have what listings and how long have they been on the market. And we've started feeding data into ChatGPT when we first get it to go, hey, can you identify where are the areas and what people are looking at, really do want to sell or whatever it is. They can also go down the path of, can you look up the title data and based on X amount of ratio of value to loan amount, who's interested in selling, or whatever the questions that you've got to be very precise with what you're asking it. A lot of the time it's wrong and it takes 4, 5, 10 times to get it right because you need to rephrase your questions or whatever. But it's unbelievable the amount of processing power that this has. And it makes me think about farm areas and farming data and all of that type of stuff for agents.
So it's interesting with the data component, you're right. So, and also one thing I'll tell you is that every engine's different. So you can take the same amount of questions, same data set, and usually it's going to be one PDF file. And you put that data set, say in ChatGPT, put it in Gemini, put it in Claude, and you'll get different results. Then on top of that, another, I would say an irritation is that every engine has variation models, different models. So let's say with ChatGPT, it started at 3.5. And then now it's gone to 4. They have a 4.0, which is advanced reasoning, which I would have loved for math because it actually shows you the steps. But that feature is so new. It has supposedly PhD reasoning on it, but it doesn't allow you to drop a PDF file. You have to drag and drop all the text into it.
Okay.
So as you start to work with these different models, there's a lot of limitations. And that's the one thing that I want to tell a lot of people, and I share with them, is that everyone feels this anxiety that you have to jump on as quickly as possible. And what I can share is that we're still very early. It's one thing I've noticed, even with doing a data analysis, is that it's about 50% okay, but I still have to do deeper analysis and spreadsheets and those type of things. It's getting better and better, but that last bit of that percentage is really, it's kind of, that's where it's frustrating because there's not one tool. What I see very smart people, and those are really adept in AI, is they tend to be a master of all. And most people don't have the time or the patience to do that. So what I'd say, and I suggest for those who are busy selling real estate, because the thing is, and I tell agents all the time, is that I don't want you trying to figure out a spreadsheet or an AI. You just go out and do the sales things. And that's where it can come back where it's like, what's it sexy or it's boring?
Yes.
It's all about sales, but it's a tool to help you get there. So if it kind of helps you get whatever your thing is, because again, some of the top producers don't have CRM, but maybe we can help improve it on their marketing or their email or their text kind of thing. So these models are complex. They're getting better and better, but they're still not there. But it does a great job in data analysis. The one thing I just would challenge is you could, like say for ChatGPT, we just described, I would create an intelligent bot and you can put up to 10 PDF documents, and you can get some really sophisticated kind of analysis, because there's a thing called predictive versus generative AI. And really what most of this is all generative, and the predictive ones is really what you're talking about. And that's machine learning and that kind of thing. And that's where I think the 4.0, but it doesn't have the connection to the PDF yet. That was getting very technical, but just to let you know, it's all good.
Well, again, I think that, Tony, as we round out this episode, first and foremost, mate, I'm incredibly excited to have you in. Obviously, we already have you in the Harcourts family, so it's great to have you as a resource. And you and Courtney are really foundational members for us, and we love having you part of the company. You've done great things for us. So the other part of this is that having your knowledge that we can give not only to our company, but then trying to give it to the others that are out there listening to Rethink Real Estate, because I think that whilst this episode might have been relatively complex as I ask more general questions, we're really going to hone down on what are some things that are coming out that we can use in our businesses, and we'll make sure that on a regular basis, Tony, that you're in there helping us navigate through this absolutely turbulent area of the business that can be very distracting. So we need somebody that understands it better than most, like you, and understands real estate to give an incredible perspective.
I'll give you a teaser. I'll show you how you can make 500 YouTube shorts in 5 minutes.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome from a content perspective. Jeez, let's not go down that rabbit hole right now.
No, not yet. No.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you joining. Looking forward to having you on for next season as well.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Love working with Harcourts. Again, like I said, it's just been an amazing partnership, and we just love you guys to death.
Thanks, buddy. So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.